Hello, I'm so glad that you could join me today. Today's topic is really important. My name is Jasmine. I'm a registered provisional psychologist, and on my channel I like to break down psychological concepts, mental health issues so that they're relatable and applicable to your life, and hopefully you can use the tips that I provide to you every week to make changes to your life. And also I like to discuss mental health topics. If you care about your mental health, if this sort of information is important to you, then please subscribe. Today what we're going to talk about is Britney Spears, the Free Britney movement, her conservatorship, and also her diagnosis of bipolar disorder or dementia. We're going to explore that, but more importantly, I'm going to explore the trauma of Britney Spears and all of the trauma that I've been able to see throughout her life. And I'll break it down to you and explain to you, for example, why she might have shaved her head that day, just explaining the reasoning why based on trauma responses. There is a really big movement that advocates the possibility that there are no mental illnesses to an extent. So for example, depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, social anxiety disorder, all of these can be explained as a trauma response instead of being labelled as a mental illness, particularly for children, conduct disorder, ADHD. Is it possible that the mental illness isn't the explanation and it's more trauma and the trauma response? And the trauma response is the behaviour. Trauma response are the symptoms of the trauma, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be diagnosed as having a mental illness. Not that there is anything wrong with mental illnesses or having a mental illness. So I'm going to provide a lot of context to Britney Spears, what she's been going through, and how this will be different today is I will give a response speculating on her life as a psychologist and providing a psychoanalysis for you. So that's how this will be different. This video will be really important for someone if you've ever felt that there's something wrong but you don't know what it quite is. You don't know if you really fit into the depression or anxiety or whatever the label is, box or category, but you know that there's something that's happened, there's behaviors and symptoms that you feel within yourself. And if you ever just wanted to break this down and understand what could possibly be going on for you, then please do subscribe to my channel, because as I said, I release this information every week and also provide those mental health tips which can really change your life for the better and provide you with psychological understanding as to why you could possibly be acting this way or feeling this way. So now in regards to Britney, we've just recently had her response to her conservatorship, which I was expecting in June 2021. And I just have to preface by saying I'm a huge Britney Spears fan, always have been. I just love her choreography. For example, Me Against the Music, I know all the choreography to that. I cannot do it, but when I listen to the song, I can see it all in my head because I've literally watched that video so many times. The best performance, just as a quick side note, if you can find her Me Against the Music performance for SNL, the one that Halle Berry introduces her, oh my God, that is the best choreography by any artist in history, hands down. I've said it before, I'll say it again. So for Britney, when I heard her testimony against the conservatorship, I honestly had tears, and I am a professional at compartmentalizing those types of feelings because I have to be, but still it was so distressing to hear what she had to say. And I've actually always thought that the conservatorship was something that protected her and protected her wealth. And the reason that I've thought that is because it's immense wealth. I think she's worth like 250 million. And I just saw that it was possible that somebody could take advantage of her, and if she did have bipolar disorder, one of the symptoms are poor financial decisions. So I think that I also saw that after the series of events that happened in 2007, 2008, once that conservatorship came into place, all of the chaos surrounding Britney seemed to diminish. So that's why I really saw it as being possibly a positive thing. Britney herself said it was useful, and there was, of course, a Free Britney movement that was saying that no, this is actually very problematic what's happening here. But I really did trust that professionals were doing the right thing. And then I saw how productive Britney's been. And I always think that when people are working, like, a lot of people really enjoy it. And I saw how much she loves performing since she was a little girl. Once she was unable to perform because of COVID, you would see her doing her impromptu performances for us on Instagram, which was just very sweet. And I thought it was her way of wanting to connect with us as well. For me, there was always evidence against the conservatorship, being Courtney Love's testimony saying that they tried to do the same thing to her. It's very plausible to believe that a law firm could try and push that onto someone like Courtney Love, and she would be more ballsy than Britney, because Britney comes across as quite sweet. Courtney Love does seem to be a bit more assertive and opinionated. So I think that it's possible that what Courtney was saying is true, that they did try it on her, but she pushed back, and they tried on Britney, and then they were obviously successful. Britney's life has been incredibly traumatic, particularly from about 2007 onwards. Now, you can see a little bit of, there was heartbreak, a breakup with her and Justin. That would have been really heartbreaking for any female, for any male as well, being in that situation. I think that Britney is a bit of a romantic, and she probably thought that that was it, and that her and Justin were going to be together forever. But unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. And then we saw things just really started to deteriorate after that. And there was a bit of career stagnation, a bit of burnout, a bit of drug use, a lot of heavy stuff. And the thing that bothered me the most, like watching this is even before I started studying psychology or became a provisional psychologist, I was really watching on and thinking, you know, like whenever I'm stressed out, what I need to do is go for a walk, clear my head, and that makes me feel like well balanced again. When Britney would go for a walk, she would be terrorized by paparazzi. And the problem is though, is that they just took away every bit of privacy from her, every little bit of being able to just chill out a little bit and relax. As you can see by this image, she's just trying to sit at the beach with her husband, completely normal behavior, completely a self-care activity that's being taken away from her, and she's just being absolutely violated. But this was her life. This was every day of her life, just trying to live a normal life whilst going through all the things that she was going through as well. So when I saw that, that's why I thought as well the conservatorship could be protecting her, because it is possible that she might have a mental illness, and after everything that she's been through, who wouldn't? And I'll explain everything that's happened to Britney as well from a mental health point of view. And there's just only so much that any of us can take, and it's relatable to anyone that's sort of been through trauma, because you just sort of like, you need to understand that when you experience trauma, it stays in your body, it changes your brain, and it stays with you. And it can reappear if you don't address it as well. Another celebrity that we know who has been through incredible trauma is Paris Hilton. A lot of times, people that have been through trauma gravitate to other people who have been through trauma. They don't have to discuss, you know, when I was 5 years old, this happened, when I was 10 years old, this happened, but they're like-minded souls. They have both been through something that changed their brain, and because of that, they connect. Seeing the fact that Britney was friends with Paris Hilton is of no real surprise. Because of their traumas, they could have similar symptoms and could be prone to similar behaviors. And that's true for any of us that have been through trauma, and for Britney, unfortunately, it's been repeated trauma. Now, when I say repeated trauma for Britney, let's take a look at some of the things that she has had to go through And I really want to explain why I believe, psychoanalyzing why I think that she shaved her head that day. Now, if you look at Britney, she has had so many things about her change that she had probably very little say in. From the fact that she had to pretend to be a virgin when she wasn't, according to her mum. And now I feel very hesitant to believe either of their parents. But anyway, it is possible that Britney was not a virgin, according to her mum's book, and she was being forced by, more than likely, potentially her record label, to sell herself as being a virgin. Now, what that would do to a 17-year-old girl is make you think, oh, it's not okay for me to have sexuality. It's not okay for me to engage in sexual activities, yet you want me to be overtly sexual. So it's very confusing, and it just makes you reject parts of your own identity to adopt the identity that they had contrived, that they had determined for her, because it's the identity that would make the most money, potentially. This is all just speculation. This is my opinion only. And my opinion as someone who has never met Britney or treated Britney. I haven't heard the other side of the story. I haven't heard the testimony of her father, and I know that it's important to always take a scientific and objective approach to anything that you psychoanalyze, but I am really struggling to want to hear what Mr. Spears has to say in all of this, just from what Britney said just recently. Her recent testimonial was really heartbreaking. So back to my main point is that was an example of Britney, what was true to Britney's identity, which was possibly losing her virginity quite younger, but she had to suppress that and project an image of someone that was a virgin, and then be constantly questioned about it in subsequent interviews, always asking about, are you a virgin or are you not, by journalists. And then there's the question of her voice. So her voice is actually quite, she's got quite a deep voice naturally, but they wanted to manufacture a voice that was more commercially appealing. So that was just another example of what was true to Britney being suppressed and her having to change her identity to suit her management's team. And it seems to be that's a common theme throughout her life. And then you have her appearance. Now, again, I'm speculating this, and I don't believe that these decisions would have been Britney's if what I'm saying is correct, but I do believe that it is possible that Britney has had a breast job and that Britney has had 2 nose jobs. She had a very cute nose prior. I don't know what was wrong. I don't know what's wrong with having a round nose. I think there's nothing wrong with it. And I also suspect that she has had liposuction to her bum. Obviously not her choice, if this were the case. And if you find some old videos of her, which I've seen, because I've seen almost every Britney video, you'll see that she had a really, like a boot. She had a big bottom and it was beautiful. But back then, I think that would have been early 2000s, that big bottom was not popular the way it is today. So it's possible that that's had to be removed and breast implants put in so she fit the mold. And if you find, there's a Rolling Stones interview, a Rolling Stones, there's like a big expose sort of thing on Britney, and apparently she was crying in the bathtub afterwards, like saying, you know, what's wrong with me? And if you're sort of forced to go through these things and you're forced to change your appearance constantly, maybe she was just a girl that loved performing. She didn't realize the byproducts that would come with being so famous, and that appearance was just so important. She probably just thought, if I put on a great performance and sung with my normal voice, everyone will love me. And it could have been right, but I guess society perhaps dictated what was going to be more popular, and then unfortunately she had to mold herself to that image. And if you keep forcing someone to go through surgeries to change their appearance, and she has to keep denying her impulses, her own identity, that's when you just can say enough is enough. And I think that could be the reason why she took it upon herself to finally take control over her own identity, over her own appearance. I'm not going to be going through painful surgery anymore, and I'm not going to be wearing these blonde hair extensions. And she just shaved her hair off. And what I've just explained is denying of a person's impulses. Her impulses might be to sing in a voice that is true to her, to act in a way that's true to her, to dress in a way that was true to her, to be in a relationship in a way that was true to her. But those impulses keep being denied and denied. And tying this back to people that have been through trauma, perhaps you've had parents that were really controlling and denied your identity, and then you may have impulse control problems later on in life. And impulse control problems are people that maybe overeat, that substance abuse, that engage in reckless behaviours, reckless sex, dangerous sort of behaviours. And it can be because your parents have controlled your impulses, which is just simply a naked thought. An impulse is a raw and naked thought. And as we get older, the logical part of our brain goes, no, you can't just strip off and run around naked, for example, or you can't eat that entire block of chocolate, or you can't spend all your money because there are consequences to that. But if you keep having people mess with your own decision-making abilities, you can have impulse control issues. And unfortunately, that is a symptom of bipolar disorder, which a lot of people think that Britney may have, which Britney may have been diagnosed with. And I do believe that she has been diagnosed with that because I suspected that she was on lithium, and she has confirmed this. And the reason that I suspected she was on lithium was simply because Britney, I love her, but she doesn't dance the way that she used to dance. Not the complex choreography that was evident within Me Against the Music, for example. And I could never understand why. Sometimes when you put through enough stress and anxiety and trauma, it changes your brain, changes your memory, interferes with your memory and functioning, including physical and bodily functions as well. So it's really possible that a combination of medication and trauma has interfered with her ability to dance the way that she used to. And lithium in particular, she doesn't need to worry. It doesn't, I think she said that it changes your brain after 5 months, like a brain damage type of thing. Whilst you're on it, it can impair your memory, it can impair your motor abilities too. So that can explain why she is unable to dance, because you lose that coordination to an extent. You can if you are on lithium. Again, back to the impulse control things. And can you see how what I'm getting at here? It was like trauma, deny her impulses, force her to get surgeries, deny her identity, and then she'll have impulse control problems, which then is a symptom of bipolar disorder. And can you see how environmental and situational factors such as traumatic experiences can lead you to ending up having and meeting diagnostic criteria for mental illnesses? And in all honesty, I do think that there is a great possibility that Britney has got a mental illness because of what she has been through. There is only so much that a person can take. If every time I went for a walk, I was bombarded by 20 to 30 men, which Britney was for every day of her life, all day, every day for a good couple of years, I don't know what I would do. And then if I looked a bit sad, if it was then plastered all over the world newspapers, I don't know what I would do. I don't know how I would react to that. I think that Britney denied all of her trauma, all of her anxiety, all of her stresses as well as she could for as long as she could. The iconic MTV VMA 2001, I think, performance where she did Slave with the yellow snake. I think its name was Banana, actually. Oh, and I think that is that the video where that tiger man, the lion man from Netflix, was also in the background. Anyway, I'm digressing. But in that video, Britney is scared of snakes. I'm scared of snakes. A lot of people are terrified of snakes. But she was suggested by her management team to have that snake for whatever reason. It looked like, I guess, like it looked amazing. The choreography, I don't really care so much for Snake, but I love the choreography. But I still prefer Me Against the Music choreography over Slave. But anyway, Britney did that performance and you wouldn't realize it, but she actually broke out in hives because she didn't like that snake. It terrified her. Most people would be terrified to have a giant anaconda around their neck. But she did her best, and she always did her best to hide what was going on within her, the inner turmoil, and keep a perfect face for everybody to see. But what my point is with that snake is oftentimes we're going through trauma, having trauma responses, and we have a poker face and we're denying it, denying our truth, we're denying our reality, denying our needs to meet the needs of others, and your body will still react. So Britney had a reaction. Her body was screaming, "This is terrifying." She broke out in hives. Oftentimes, for other people that have experienced trauma, maybe you'll find that you're always okay. You've got a poker face, you're doing fine, but you've got intense migraines constantly. You're having problems with your digestive system. You think that you have food allergies. What else could be the reason for why you've always got like these IBS symptoms? It can be a trauma response. So if you're having these experiences, just take a look around to see who's triggering this. Like what is triggering this this bodily response? Could it be something more? And then you can just unpack it and work through it. So I think that like we saw Britney going through all the things that happened in 2007, 2008. It could have been just constantly denying what she was feeling deep inside and just having to please everybody. Just constantly denying her needs, but eventually they scream louder and louder. And the problem is that we put through people have experienced trauma, they have symptoms, they have behavioural problems as a response to the trauma that they've experienced. But with Britney, there was just such a history of trauma there, and she was given so many labels as well. Multiple personality disorder, it's not called that, it's dissociative identity disorder. It's the rarest mental illness in existence. It's simply because she was putting on a UK accent. But it was mostly when she was being surrounded by the paparazzi. That's when that UK accent would come out. And just to give you a psychological explanation as to why, just a theory as to why I believe that could have happened is one, Britney said that she really likes the UK. So perhaps by invoking a British accent, it took her to a place of warmth and love. And it took her to a happier place. So that could explain it. Another explanation could be that by adopting that accent, she would dissociate from her personality, which is actually, to the media's credit, is one of the ways that dissociative identity disorder can actually develop. Because what's happening is, pretend that someone's being sexually assaulted. It cannot often be associated with sexual assault. Whilst the trauma and the heinous crime is being perpetrated to the victim, they'll dissociate to another personality as a way to salvage themselves, as a way to cope and to save themselves. So it's not that you have multiple personalities, it's that you actually have less than one real personality, because you've had to separate the cognitions and memory that intertwined form part of one identity. You've had to separate them to protect that part of yourself. So the memory is happening to, I don't know, Sarah. Britney, for example, is safe. So adopting a British accent could separate her from the trauma because it's happening to British Patricia or British Sarah, for example. Do I think that Britney has dissociative identity disorder? Absolutely not. But she was experiencing extreme stress and trauma, and that was a behavioral symptom. Another label Britney got was depressed, sad Britney, when she was weeping Britney, just disgusting things by the media, really. It did nothing to help the stigma of mental health, and it just really, it was just terrible. And she's now being diagnosed with dementia. That's the latest claim. So far, Britney's had several mental illnesses, according to a lot of things, but I do definitely think that she's experiencing constant trauma responses as a result of what she has been through. I don't think I could make that any clearer. But as for the dementia, it is possible that she has early onset dementia, absolutely, because stress is one of the causal factors. So if that is the case, like, it's just very, there's just no words to describe how terrible that is. Just terrible, really. Is it possible that Britney was susceptible to mental illness prior, and then she had the environmental stresses, the circumstantial stresses of her life and living her life as a celebrity that sort of worked together to create a more severe mental illness? That's possible too. When you're exposed to a trauma, you can later on exhibit behavioural symptoms that fit the diagnostic criteria for mental illnesses and then be medicated. An example I will give is a young man that's verbally abused by his father daily, being called every name under the sun, constantly being called like a piece of poo, whatever. I can't swear because it's YouTube, but you know how vicious some parents can be, some people can be. And as a result of that, what do you know? Being called names all day, every day, being put down constantly by somebody that you love has a negative impact. Who would have thought? And then as a result of that, that person has a low mood, develops hopelessness, may develop suicidal thoughts. They therefore meet the diagnostic criteria for depression and are prescribed antidepressants. And it's a possibility, though, that the antidepressants may not be that effective, but they could be more effective, obviously, if they get therapy too, because the therapy will work to address the trauma that you've been through. I think as well, Britney didn't like her therapist, and it was probably because she didn't get to any control over picking her therapist. Having therapy sessions 3 times a week, as she stated, it is excessive, but in some cases, if a person does have bipolar disorder, it is sometimes a necessary treatment requirement. But I think I've made it clear, like, the dilemma in the fact that she may have bipolar disorder. The symptoms that she's exhibiting that meet the diagnostic criteria can be trauma responses, and that's a trauma that she had no power over. And I think that's what the tragedy is. I think that's what really upsets everybody, especially because she's just brought so much joy to our lives in particular. And the movement that mental illnesses, mental disorders labels may not exist and everything is a trauma response was initially advocated by Dr. Vessel van der Kolk. So you'll also see the holistic psychologist on Instagram. She's huge. She's got about 2 million followers. And she's also saying, you know, like, social anxiety disorder is just simply nervous system response to fear of people, simply just due to trauma responses. So her idea is that if you're surrounded by people that are constantly attacking you within your family unit, for example, when you go outside, you're going to be fearful of everybody, thinking that everyone's going to attack you just as a trauma response to the trauma that you lived within your household unit. but it's not necessarily social anxiety disorder, it's a trauma response. So that's essentially like what she's also saying. And like in regards to Britney, I've shown you how she had very little ability to make decisions for herself, and therefore her ability to make sound decisions is limited. She's going to possibly give in to impulses because she's finally allowed to act on her impulses, and she's never been given the ability to exercise her own decision-making abilities because that's been taken from her, possibly speculating by her management team. As for the conservatorship happening, it is possible that, given that at the time, back in 2007, 2008, I saw the things really improve for her, and maybe to give her father the benefit of the doubt, maybe the conservatorship was put in place with good intent, but the greed of people got in the way. And I think it's terrible that people have been able to abuse that system, and Britney not being able to, like, having that IUD implanted. I didn't know that a conservatorship could do that. And as I say, it is possible that the conservatorship actually wouldn't have that power, but the team behind it could have told Britney that, you know, the conservatorship says you have to wear you have to put the IUD in, or else we'll sue you. So that's just abusing what the conservatorship stood for. As for whether the conservatorship should have ever been put in place, I just think it's just a response of the way that society is these days. Like, you see it in Britney, you see it socially. Social inequity shows that vulnerable groups and minorities, for example, are more inclined to end up in jail because of the way that society treats them. This is always up for debate. Like, people argue, are you the maker of your destiny, or has your destiny been predetermined by society? An example will be females and males' ability to do maths is equal. Like, our brains are both capable of it, but males are generally better at maths. Why is that? They determined that societal attitudes towards women doing maths is less encouraged. Teachers, even in class, respond less to the female students than they do to the male students in maths classes. So it's just, you can see how society is shaping that men are going to be better at maths than women. But in all fairness, when you take all of that away, they both have the same ability. Now, if you keep putting people down, putting groups down, oppressing groups, then they're going to act out. Same way with trauma. You keep abusing children, abusing adolescents, they're going to have behavioural symptoms. And in Britney's case, she had behavioural symptoms, so our only solution was, let's put her under this conservatorship, simply just to protect her wealth. And it's very similar to the prison system. It's like, we're going to push you down, tell you that your particular race are prone to these behaviours. We're going to make life really unfair for you. Wealth is going to be unevenly distributed. Oh, what's that? You resort to crime. Well, it's prison for you. It's very similar. And until our society comes up with a better way of doing things, I only saw the conservatorship as being something that was positive for her, just because she said it was useful, and because I could see that there were impulse control potential problems because of the trauma that she had experienced, and it was a way to protect her wealth. And when you've worked that hard, that's one thing that you deserve. But it turns out that human nature is a lot worse than I actually thought, and they seem to have really abused that. Perhaps, as I said, it was well intended to begin with, but greed got the better of people. Maybe management put all that pressure on Mr. Spears, but he should have said, "This is my daughter, I am bound by blood, and I am now bound by law. The answer is no." But he didn't. But I'm saying this speculating without hearing his side. but Britney makes a pretty compelling argument. And I've seen what she's been through. I've seen her having the paparazzi hound her and then having to do red carpet appearances with paparazzi. It's like reliving that trauma. It's like being somebody, it's similar to being someone who has experienced sexual abuse and having to face sex criminals day after day. Another celebrity that has bipolar disorder, allegedly, I think that Kanye is confirmed though, it is Kanye West, and things really started to unravel for him possibly when he had the trauma of losing his mum, and his mum died of a liposuction procedure gone wrong, I believe. And I just think about, like, he had to keep reliving that trauma because I speculate that it is possible that Kim Kardashian has had surgeries, but it is possible as well it's that maybe you can gain weight in certain areas whilst losing weight in other areas. Maybe your face and your nose and everything can change. Science wouldn't support that, but I do not know if she has or hasn't. But if she has had surgeries, like, imagine for Kanye, like, he lost his mother. He wept on stage over losing his mum to plastic surgeries, and then he himself is in a loving relationship with his wife who could be going through those surgeries quite frequently, possibly. And it's just like reliving that trauma, just making those symptoms worse and worse and worse. And I think as well, the irony of all this is that I really think that the media made things worse for Britney. I really do. But it was the media, ironically, that has resulted in possibly her having the courage to put together her argument and read it to the judge. And through, maybe she watched the Free Britney documentary, and maybe that really gave her the strength to fight this. And maybe as well, it's a reflection on society. Like, maybe we don't enjoy watching people's demise as much as we used to. We don't want to see somebody tripping and falling in paparazzi pictures. And we're looking for more intellectual stimulation from the media now. So hopefully that's what the media represents today, is a reflection of society evolving. Can only hope. If the conservatorship is removed and Britney is allowed her freedoms and her autonomy and her right to live the life that she wants, and if she starts to make mistakes in the future, which we all make mistakes, when the paparazzi take those photos, don't click on them. Don't participate in that kind of behaviour, in that way of making money. We're the ones that are driving it. The media does not exist without society. Trust me, journalists would not be publishing articles, putting out photos if no one was there to read it. So don't click on those images if you can, if that ever happens. I just hope that Britney can live the life that she deserves, and that she can marry her ridiculously good-looking soon-to-be husband, and they can have beautiful, talented children. And the other thing is too, like, when she said all of those things, I just kept repeating in my mind, poor Britney, poor Britney. Let's not say that anymore. Let's not keep seeing Britney as a victim. Let's see Britney as an empowered woman who is getting her life back. And that's the same with you. If you've experienced trauma, you were once a victim, but you are not any longer. You are in control now, and you can make the changes. And if you ever want to get some mental health tips from me, please subscribe to this channel, because I share them every week. And it's maybe a cheaper way of accessing therapy, but it definitely doesn't replace therapy. I just really hope that Britney does get to live the life that she deserves, and I just want to thank her, like, for bringing so much joy to my life. And I think that it was a really deep down, there was a part of her that was extremely powerful, extremely courageous, creatively brilliant, and that she played a big part in her career, and the brilliance of her songs, brilliance of her dancing. And if this video is important to you, if things like this are important to you, don't forget to subscribe. I also offer online therapy, link is in the bio. And I'm just gonna go off and listen to some Britney music now. So my favorite Britney song is probably Toy Soldier. Why don't you share your comments below? Let's celebrate this beautiful, amazing, remarkable woman. Again, like, let's support her. There's so many people that have done so much to help her to get to this point. Let's continue to support her by not seeing her as a victim, not seeing ourselves as a victim as well. If we've ever experienced any trauma, it's time to feel empowered. And let's just celebrate the beautiful musician that she is and pray that the right decision is made. And thank her for speaking up, because we didn't know her side of the story. And it's really wonderful that she knows that she has a voice, and I just wish that we all had have known the truth a long time ago. Well, thanks for tuning in today, and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.